800-711-9960 or text keyword HAPPY to 600-700, HAPPY to 600-700.
By the way, there's no cost for the analysis and also the plan. Yep. So we'll analyze where you are right now. We'll do a forensic analysis, making sure that you are where you thought you were, and what your person or your broker or whoever it has been telling you is true. And if not, why not get that from a fiduciary planning team? Not only what's wrong, but how to fix it. Mm-hmm. And so it's one thing to tell you all the bad things, but if you're not going to give me a solution strategy, then what good is it?
What's
so we'll
the point?
Give you a solution strategy along with that. And we've seen others charge thousands of dollars for this. We're going to waive that for you if you're one of the next 15 people who call right now.
Again, that number is 800-711-9960, 800-711-9960, or text keyword HAPPY to 600-700, HAPPY to 600-700. By the way, folks, remember you can always go to PeteOnDemand.com to find out more about what we're talking about right now. Coach has mentioned a couple of resources on the program. We have a treasure trove of resources over on PeteOnDemand.com, including guides, workbooks, videos. Coach, I'm forgetting some stuff. I'm sure obviously some of your best-selling books as well.
Loaded with stuff, audiobooks here and everything. But then also, if you have a question for me and you don't want anyone else to hear you ask it, you can go to talktocoach.com.
That's right.
Talktocoach.com. All right, Thomas, do we have enough time? I don't know if we do or not for 1963.
I think we have enough time. Check this out.
Through the years, let's take a trip back in time.
1963, a year the nation mourned. This year contained one of those rare "where were you" moments. So we have to open with the biggest moment of the year, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. I was probably napping because I wasn't even one, but I do know my mother and grandmother were watching as the world turns when Walter Cronkite broke in with a special bulletin.
And I gave it a great deal of thought, Grandpa.
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas.
In those days when the network cut in with a special bulletin, you knew it was big. True breaking news.
Lee Oswald has been shot.
2 days later, Lee Harvey Oswald was shot as networks carried it live. So that all happened close to the end of the year 1963, a year that saw the beginning of Beatlemania. One of their biggest releases, I Want to Hold Your Hand. It still hadn't appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, though. That was the next year. This year saw one of the most famous speeches of all time delivered by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his I Have a Dream speech in Washington. If anyone won a new car on a game show in '63, they could have heard, a new car valued at $3,233. That was the average price, 29 cents a gallon to fill it up. A great year for TV with shows like Andy Griffith, The Flintstones, and Mr. Ed.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed.
Zip codes came to be in '63. Polio vaccines were taken in a lump of sugar, and insurance firm State Mutual Life Insurance invented the smiley face. So, with that said, have a nice day.
We've now arrived safely back in the present. We hope you enjoyed your trip. Here's to a smooth ride into retirement.
Have a nice day. Hey, by the way, financialsafari.com is where you can go and listen to old shows, this show if you want to share it with folks. And, of course, as always, PeteOnDemand.com for lots of information. You can request an appointment there if you'd like. You can get a lot of information for you and your family and put yourself in control of the financial situation. For Thomas Lipscomb over there, Marty Hensley to my right, it's Coach Pete. We'll see you next week right here on the Financial Safari.
Coach P Radio.
Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Neither Peter J. Deruta or his guests are liable for the usage of information discussed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken.
Money management is provided by Equus Capital Management. Equus is an SEC-registered investment advisor located in San Rafael, California. Investment advice by Capital Financial Advisory Group, LLC, a North Carolina-registered investment advisor. Insurance advice given by Capital Financial and Insurance, a North Carolina licensed insurance agency.
Coach Pete. Coach Pete, financial advice, the likes of which can't be beat. Coach Pete, Coach Pete, financial advice, the likes of which can't be beat. So it's time, yeah, it's time for Coach Pete.
Keeping Holden Beach informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the brand new show, All Things Brunswick 2.0. We have a brand new show with a brand new format and some brand new co-hosts with me, and we're looking forward to a great new run for the show. Let me introduce me. I'm Bill Moore. I've been with you before, but I've got some brand new co-hosts with me. Go ahead.
I'm Mary Stowell. I'm the associate producer, and I will co-host from here on in.
And I'm Dan Roman, the resident good-looking guy, to keep Bill on his toes.
Well, 1 out of 2 isn't bad. We'll go from there. Anyway, we've got a great show planned for you, and I hope you stay with us week to week. Admittedly, we're going to do one run this week, and then we're going to take a couple off for the holidays. But January 4th, we'll be back every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock with some great guests, some great information, and hopefully a lot of fun when we're doing this. So please stay with us. Now, Mary, why don't you tell us our first guest is?
Our first guest this evening is Martha Jenkins. Martha is currently the 4th Vice President of the National Federation of Republican Women. She has a BA in history from William and Mary College. She's very active in the North Carolina Federation of Republican Women, grassroots organizations, and political communications. And I have asked her to join us this evening to talk about keeping the 9, which means that we would like to keep 9 justices in our Supreme Court. Martha, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
We hear you fine.
Great.
Good.
Tell us a little bit about this very important thing that you are working on.
Well, this is actually an effort to get an amendment to the United States Constitution that would simply say the Supreme Court of the United States shall be composed of 9 justices. And as many of your listeners will know, there's been a recent effort, or at least recent conversations among the people in the left about packing the court. They were very unhappy that President Trump was able to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices. Are very concerned about the kinds of decisions that are going to be coming out of the currently configured Supreme Court. And they're talking about just blanket, in fact, there's bills already filed in both the House and the Senate to add 6 justices to the Supreme Court. And the problem with that, as most people would probably figure out, is that whichever party is in power at that point would simply add more justices or take justices out to try to change the balance of the court. And then we would no longer have an independent Supreme Court.
That's right. That court would not be the guardian of our rights anymore. It would be a political tool.
Exactly.
Now, I understand that there are over 170 candidates for the 2022 election who are opposed to packing the court. Is that correct?
Well, what we have now is that there are bills filed in the House and the Senate that would enact this amendment if passed, of course, the amendments have to also be ratified by the states, but they first have to pass Congress by a 3/5 majority. And Senator Cruz in the Senate, Senator Ted Cruz is a sponsor in the Senate, and there are 20 other senators who have co-sponsored. And in the House, South Carolina, Representative Dusty Johnson introduced the bill for this amendment, and there are 173, if I'm not mistaken, co-sponsors of that bill. And so one of the strategies, well, let me back up just a little bit. The whole concept of the amendment came about from a group of former state attorneys general. One was Rufus Edmiston, former attorney general in North Carolina. Eight of that group were Democrats and 7 were Republicans. So it started as a truly bipartisan effort. But part of the strategy now is to get all of these people who are filing to run, and of course in North Carolina we're on hold with filing. But I will say that all of our incumbent Republican senators and House members have co-sponsored the current bill. So we do want all of the candidates that will be on the ballot in 2022 to take a stand one way or the other, whether they support it or don't support it. So that's one of the things that we're all working on, is to, if they oppose the amendment, just tell us, don't do like Biden said when he said we didn't deserve to know where he stood on court packing. No, the voters do deserve to know. And so that's one of the things that we're working on.
Yes. So Martha, tell me, do you think that they will go ahead and do a 28th amendment to keep the justices at 9?
Well, I think that's what it's going to take to permanently prevent the Supreme Court becoming a tool of either party or, some new party in the future. Bottom line is, the founding fathers, even though they gave Congress the authority to set the number of justices, they never envisioned that the court would be a partisan tool. They envisioned that the judiciary was independent and would solve disputes between the states and the federal government, or between the legislative and the executive. They are there. And one of you mentioned about preserving rights. Think about the civil rights movement, for instance. If the Supreme Court had never, first of all, overturned Dred Scott, or if they had never overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. So the Supreme Court is there to protect our rights and to enforce the Constitution. So yes, I hope we get an amendment. It may not be fast. These kinds of efforts don't happen overnight. As it took women to get the right to vote, it took decades for women to get the right to vote enshrined in the Constitution. But it is something that's a long-term goal, and I intend to work on it until we get it done.
And it's been at 9 justices for quite some time, so this is not like a radical.
Right, since like 1867 or so. I know it was the 1860s, so it's been way over 100 years.
But the issue you have right now is that you need to get 3/5 of the Congress to agree.
Right.
And then you have to get 38 states to approve it. Now, what they've done recently, when amendments come out, they usually give it a drop dead date, for want of a better term. They usually give it 7 years to get there. So that's what they will at least do with this, so it doesn't hang out there forever. Right. But
well, at this point, there's no provision in the bill to put a date certain on it. So if it was ever sent out to the states, unless that changes, and obviously every time a new Congress is constituted, bills from past Congresses are dead. So in 2023, these two bills will be reintroduced. And it's possible they could change a little bit. But chances are the same sponsor or co-sponsors who are dead set on getting this done will introduce the bill, and it will be identical.
And if we have that red wave they talk about, you might get better numbers
Might
next
get
time
the
around.
3/5 that you
What
need.
are you, Martha?
Well, that's exactly true. But here's the other thing. Out and about in our state and in the 50 states and out in the streets, most voters, no matter what party they are, agree that there should not be court packing. And when they're asked if they would favor an amendment to keep it at 9, by almost 4 to 1, they say yes. So it's very popular among the general public when they're asked about the idea. They go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But politically, obviously in Washington, D.C. right now, folks like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, are not going to allow their members to sign on to this. Now, as you mentioned, if we have the red wave that we really hope will happen, there could be, there probably won't be enough still of one party, but there could end up being more bipartisanship because that's what the voters want.
So at this point, you don't see in the Senate or the House any Democrats signing on to this bill. So you're not sure you're going to get much is going to happen.
I don't think so. I don't think so on the federal level. I will say that there was a resolution in the North Carolina House that passed last spring in support of this amendment, and the resolution asked Congress to pass it and send it to the states for ratification. And the most articulate debater in favor of this resolution on the floor was a Democrat member of the state house. He's a former federal judge, and he 100% gets it that the Supreme Court has to be independent. And he voted for it, and he made the best argument in favor of it. So once you get outside of the ultra partisan Washington, D.C., things get better.
Once you pop that bubble, you get out to the real people.
Do you have a rough idea of how many states have done what North Carolina does, or has any other state done it where they've expressed their support for it? Or we need 30.
Right. If I was sitting in my computer, I could tell, but it's in the dozens.
Okay.
It's I think it's between 30 and 40 legislative bodies. In other words, maybe not both bodies in every state, but one or both houses. And of course, Nebraska is the only state that just has one house. That's a unicameral legislature.
I did read that there were 200 members of Congress in support of keeping the 9.
Okay, so I think it's 179 House co-sponsors plus the original, and I think it's 20 plus Senator Cruz in the Senate. And both Senator Tillis and Senator Burr have signed on. And as I mentioned, all of our North Carolina Republicans, Rouser, Murphy, Bishop, Hudson, Fox, McHenry, who am I leaving out? I may have them all. Ted Buck. So all of them have endorsed it.
Did I missed the
or
first
co-sponsored.
Did our 2 senators endorse it?
Yes.
Yes, both senators have endorsed the Senate bill, co-sponsored the Senate bill.
That's better.
And Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson has publicly endorsed the effort and the concept.
Great.
Yes. Yes.
What can our listeners or viewers, because we're going out in a lot of directions today, what can they do to help get this passed?
I would say the first thing they can do is go to the website keep9, spelled out, NINE.org, keep9.org. There's weekly Zoom meetings they can participate in, but there's also a place at the bottom of the page where they can spend 5 minutes a month emailing an influencer, or there's always directions for that 5 minutes a month group that, wants to help but doesn't have much time. But the other thing is to get candidates on the record, and then to let me know so that I can let the national network know when they can add someone's name to the list of endorsements. There's a long list of endorsements on that website.
And I'm also sure that place there that you might be able to donate a few bucks to help this operation go on.
That would be awesome, yes, because with extra money we could actually do some advertising. But at this point, we're grassroots. We're working word of mouth, things like this. One of there's attorneys general that started the whole idea. It's Paul Summers in Tennessee, and he does a lot of radio programs. So it's, the folks listening can just tell people about the whole idea and the whole concept, and ask them to learn more, and ask them to call their representatives, and ask them to support it, especially the Democrats.
Great.
Just one more time for our audience. What's that website they can go look at?
Okay, it's keep9.org. KEEPNINE.org.
Great. Thank you so much, Martha. And thank you for everything that you do for our state and our country. We do appreciate you. And thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
And Martha,
you're quite welcome.
And if you get any changes to what's going on, please get in touch with Mary and come back and share it with our audience.
I certainly will. I certainly will. And if anybody's interested, if they will there's a spot they can put their email in on that website, and they can get updates.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you for joining us,
Yes.
and look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me.
And safe trip, Martha. Safe trip when you're driving.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we're moving ahead with some of our old format, which is talking to people of importance for you. Beyond that, we have some other things that we're going to surprise you with today as we go through the operation. But I think at this point, we're going to take a couple of minutes and talk about something very important and something very dear to all our hearts, but especially to my co-host Mary's heart. I'm going to talk about the Matthews Ministry. If you don't know what that's all about, you're about to find out.
Yes. Each year I choose a charity to support in our community. And this year I chose Matthews Ministry. This particular charity was started in August of 2010. A teacher in our area asked for prayers for a child who had no food at home. One of the moms offered to help and discovered several children in the same boat. After notifying several friends, schools, and teachers, Matthews Ministries became a nonprofit agency. That mom, with the big heart and a vision to help, is Christy Disbrow. Schools were contacted and backpack programs were implemented across the county. Social workers also contact Miss Disbrow and receive food for families they visit. This wonderful organization provides food to children at schools in Brunswick County and changes their lives and others daily. They accept food and monetary donations at 8500 Oak Island Drive, and you may also send them money to Matthews Ministry, P.O. Box 10761, Southport, North Carolina 28461. I can't think of a better place to give of yourself this holiday season. Please, the gift of food to children is the best part of the holiday.
And I'm sure we're sharing this with you because we know this program works, and we know they're out there, and the greater majority of what they're making is going to the kids and not through expenses.
Yes.
And the need this year is much more significant than it has been in prior. Out of work, there's a tremendous need.
Once again, the address, if you cannot drop food off, is Matthews Ministry, P.O. Box 10761, Southport, North Carolina 28461. Just a little goes a long ways. Thank you.
We need to make a difference in a lot of kids' lives this year. They've had a rough year and a half with what's going on everywhere, schools and everything going on in communities. So if we can make their Christmas season a little bit lighter by having enough food and the family can eat properly. And just as a side note, and Mary's been involved in this also, the Republican Party had a party this weekend for the holidays, Christmas holiday and the Hanukkah holidays, as we call it, a holiday party, because we are covering a bunch of people that cover, all our areas. We're not like the North where they do holiday because they can't say the word Christmas. We took that term because we were honoring the fact that it was also Hanukkah at that same time. So we took it that way. But we had people come to the party and bring an unwrapped gift. And Mary, what'd you do with them?
They're in the trunk of my car.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And they can be purchased at the corner of
No. Tomorrow, I found out today exactly where I can drop them off. And tomorrow, after a meeting here, I will be going by to drop them off. And seriously, my heart, it does my heart good because my trunk is literally full. Everybody gave, and it's just awesome.
We still haven't told them what they're doing with it.
We are giving it to the children of domestic violence.
Yes, and those, if you want to talk about kids having a rough time, if you're the victim of domestic violence, your holiday is not great to begin with. So if we can brighten them up a little bit, and that's what the Republican Party has done in Brunswick with this rise, and you tied that with Matthew's ministry. We really, really want to make a difference, and we can make a difference, and we will make a difference.
And every little bit helps.
Yes, it does.
Anything you can give will be appreciated.
And used properly. So at that point, I think we need to pay a few bills. So we'll give TK a minute or two to get something paid, and we'll be back with you shortly. Stay with us for All Things Brunswick 2.0.
Are you nervous about joining a gym? Anxious about not being able to keep up with others in the fitness classes? Full Circle Fitness has your solution. We specialize in working with those just getting started on their fitness journey. Our coaches tailor each workout to you and your level of ability, so you don't have to worry about keeping up. There's no better opportunity to get started. Call today, Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350, or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com.
We're back.
I guess we're back. I thought we would be paying some homage to Dr. Maglione, but I guess we're not. Maybe we'll catch Tony the next time around, which is also a good thing. But anyway, we have another person on the line who I've gotten to know over the last few months, and he's really a phenomenal person. And he's running for a position on the North Carolina Supreme Court. And I think he's worth listening to. Trey, are you there?
Hi, Bill. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, my friend. So welcome to our show, All Things Brunswick 2.0.
Hi, Trey.
I'm glad to be here. Hi, Mary. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello, Dan.
I'd just like to say that Trey began his career as a judge advocate in the U.S. Marine Corps, which
we will not hold against him, being an Army type.
Against him? That makes him my hero.
He was a Marine.
I said, being an Army type, I will not hold it against him.
He was deployed to Iraq during Operation Iraq Freedom. And after discharge, he actually clerked with Judge Paul Newby. Want to tell us a little bit more, Trey?
Sure. Thank you, Mary. Yes. So I'm a North Carolinian, born and bred. Bill, we're happy to have you here. Anyway,
thank you, sir.
I grew up in Lumberton. Met my wife there. In high school, we have 5 children. We homeschool them. After at law school, as you heard, I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years. I did serve in Iraq. When I came back to North Carolina, my first job was clerking with now our Chief Justice, Paul Newby, who really is the gold standard for conservative judges in this state. He was in his first year on the court then, so it was a real honor to clerk for him and at the beginning of his time on the court. I then practiced law in Raleigh. Became a partner at a firm there, handling constitutional law and other cases in state court and federal court. And then I did something that when Republicans hear it, sometimes they're taken aback. I became a professor at UNC Chapel Hill. But I tell people, look, if you can be a conservative at UNC Chapel Hill, you can be one anywhere. So I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And when Chief Justice Newby became the Chief Justice in January, he asked me to be part of the court system's leadership team. And so I now serve you as the general counsel or the top lawyer for our court system. And what that means is that I run an 11-lawyer office. We give legal guidance to judges, clerks of court, and magistrates throughout North Carolina. And I am also running for one of the 2 seats on the North Carolina Supreme Court that will be on the ballot in 2022.
And you did receive an award of such. Do you want to tell us about that?
You mean at Chapel Hill?
Yes.
Yes. So at Chapel Hill, not only have I been a conservative professor there, but I did manage to obtain tenure. I was named a distinguished term professor, and I received an award for a writing award for one of my books. And it's a book on local government immunity in civil cases. So if any of the readers there need to be put to sleep, if they're having trouble resting, consider ordering that book. It can help.
Well, congratulations on that, Trey.
Sure, thank you.
Trey, what made you decide to go for the North Carolina Supreme Court?
It's something that I've thought about for a long time since I clerked on the court. I have a lot of respect for our court, for the Supreme Court as an institution, and the role it plays in our state. It does have the last word on the interpretation of state law. Its decisions on matters of federal law can be appealed only to the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's very important. Its decisions affect the lives of all North Carolinians. And the current makeup of the court is not to my liking. Right now, we have 3 constitutional conservatives and 4 justices who are not. And so I think that has led to some regrettable decisions. I think that we'll see in the next few months. I'm afraid in the next few months we'll see some other decisions come out of the court that we're not going to be happy with because they, I think we'll question whether they are more about the law or more about policy. And so 2 of those, so that's sort of the bad news, but the good news is that 2 of those 4 liberal held seats are going to be on the ballot next year. So we have the opportunity, this election is an opportunity to change the trajectory of the court. And that's the immediate reason that I'm in. Sometimes when people ask me, why are you running? I'll say math. And so that's it. We have a chance to change the numbers.
And I know you've been traveling this state north, south, east, west, and every little point on the compass. You know, you should probably get your campaign to give you mileage, because you'd by now probably be able to go anywhere in the world free.
Well, in this state, it's so different from the federal system where, judges are appointed by the president or nominated by the president, approved by the Senate. Here, we elect our judges in this state, and that has its challenges. And one of them for people who want to be judges is that you do have to run, you do have to campaign. And so since the Supreme Court races are statewide, that means you campaign statewide. But it also means that our judges answer directly to the people. The people have the opportunity, to decide who they want in there, and when a person's up for re-election, to decide whether they want to keep the person there. And there's a lot to be said for that, given the power that judges have in our system.
Ultimately, the court has the final say. This, to me, is the largest responsibility of any one human being. Do you feel the same way?
I do, and we see your listeners will, I'm sure, be familiar with the fact that our state Supreme Court has just rescheduled the primary for 2022. And if you think about that, that's an awesome act of power. I mean, consider what the General Assembly has to go through to set the primary date. You have to have a bill. It has to go through both houses. The governor gets to veto it, and the General Assembly can override it, or the governor can sign it. That process takes time. The votes are public. The court, in just a matter of hours, rewrote the schedule, and that's just one example of the authority that it has. And so, I think it's very important for folks who are in those positions, who are justices, who are judges, to bring some real humility. If you go to the court believing that you know all the answers and that you know how things ought to be, then I would submit you've got the wrong attitude. Judges are supposed to be the servants of the law, not the masters of the law. And if the people of this state elect me to the court, I'm going to go there aware that I am not infallible, and that the law is to be my guide, and that I'm going there to follow the law and not make the law.
Great. Please tell us how you feel about packing the court.
Are we talking here about the U.S. Supreme Court?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm opposed to it personally. I think that it's telling. I assume the Biden Commission report is the immediate impetus for this question, and I think it's so telling that the commission did not make a recommendation about packing the court. And I think that means that even though you had some very left-leaning people on the commission, you had enough people on the commission who realized that once you go down that road, that the legitimacy of the court would really be threatened. But can I tell you the thing that I found the most interesting about the Biden Commission section, the reports section on court packing?
Please do.
Maybe the U.S. Oh.
I was going to say 5 also, yes.
6.
I was only off by 1.
Bad.
But here's what I think is interesting about that. It's an even number.
Yes.
That's true.
That's true.
And so why would you have an appellate court with an even number of judges? Well, if you look at some of the appellate courts in England of that period or before that period, you'll also find an even number of judges. Why? Because everybody assumed that judges were going to have the same basic approach to the law, that they were going to treat the law as something objective, and that they would not be sitting there trying to transform their personal preferences into law. We wouldn't dream today of having a Supreme Court, state or federal, with an even number of justices. Because, frankly, in my view, of the way the left has politicized our courts over the last few decades. Because the left has used the courts to implement an agenda that they couldn't get implemented through the electoral process. And I think that's just a sort of a sad commentary on where we are. But in my view, packing the court would just, the U.S. Constitution doesn't place a limit on the size of the U.S. Supreme Court. So if one side does it now, then the next side's going to want to do it when it comes in. And I think that would be fatal to people's belief that the court, or people's respect for the court.
Trey, I know that as a candidate running in a possible and hopefully a sitting justice there within a year, you should not be commenting on cases. So I'm not going to ask you about that because that's not fair to you. But I would point out to our listeners and or our watchers, whichever's out there, that there are some important cases that he alluded that could give us a lot of trouble. Voter ID is heading there again, and we don't have the majority again. Beyond that, we have our redistricting maps that just popped in their faces again, and we don't know how that's going to go. So it is important that we elect judges who are there to interpret the law and not create law. And I think if I read you correctly, I think that's the direction you go.
You did. That is absolutely the direction in which I would go. I'm not running to be a legislator in a black robe. I'm running to be a judge who is under the law and who applies the law.
That's a great way to put it.
If someone wanted to find out more about you or contribute to your campaign, how could they do that and where would they look?
Thanks for that question, Bill. My website, it's easy to get to. It's just TreyAllenNC.com, TreyAllenNC.com. And I don't want to leave without giving my slogan, if I may.
Please do.
Okay, so my slogan is, don't go astray, vote for Trey.
Yay.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot.
People who did the newbie thing from last year, he must have hired the same group.
You come up with that yourself?
Scooby-Dooby, vote for newbie? Or
well, I'll tell you, the Chief Justice strongly encouraged me to run. He has a gift for slogans, and I hope you won't mind my saying that he suggested mine.
All right.
Again, one more time for our listeners, your website if they want to read more about you or give you some money.
And both are important. TreyAllenNC.com.
And you'll be down to visit, I'm sure.
I absolutely will. I love Brunswick County. My in-laws have a place there. My parents had a place there when I was growing up. And obviously Brunswick County is important in any primary and in the general election. And I look forward to spending much more time there over the coming months.
We look forward to seeing you again. Absolutely. Thanks for coming on tonight, Trey, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Trey.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a safe trip, whatever you're up to.
Thanks.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we're moving on with our show. This is a whole brand new 2.8, and we're about to introduce something we've never done before. But before we get there, one of the things we tend to look at, this is a All Things Brunswick show, but a lot of things that go on in the region will either affect us or going to affect us shortly. And I know there's a big debate going on in New Hanover right now over parking.
I knew he was going to. I told you he was going to go there. So.
And just a little bit about what's going on in Carolina Beach, and we have our own beach communities here. So, we have to be careful that it could spread here. But I know Carolina Beach and Wrightsville Beach have basically passed resolutions that have locked out day visitors at an expense they really can't afford to be there.
What's happening?
Would you like to address that, Dan?
Let's talk about that. So, one of the things that I think people need to realize is we are not just a specific county, whether it's Brunswick, New Hanover, or whatever. We are a region. We all are intertwined. We all share the different beaches. And I think what we're seeing is the beginnings of what is going to become the norm if we allow it, which is, as we all know, the beaches have started charging for parking. Wrightsville's well known for what they do. Carolina started charging a few years ago for during the summer. Curry added it. I'm not sure on Oak Island and those, but they've had their charges. And, you know, it's a passion of mine because one of the things that I think is important, especially right now with the economy, people struggling, is a day at the beach here is a day to just relax. Even if it's the middle of winter, you know, it's going to be 70 degrees later on this week. Last weekend, it was in almost 80. I think it did hit 80, actually. So being able to go to the beach, relax, is something a family can do.
Right.
And, you know, during the summer, there's paid parking. I have issues with some of it, but in general, I get that, right? I'm not going to quibble on that. But to implement paid parking in the winter, from that perspective, the people that are getting hurt are the people on the lower income, right? Someone who's making $100,000 a year can afford $2 an hour. Someone who is making $30,000 a year, that's a burden on them. And, you know, as a strong advocate against this personally, that's my main viewpoint. And then I look at things like how they're implementing it. So Carolina Beach will be the first, and then you will see it spread. Wrightsville will add paid parking in the winter, Curry, so on and so forth. One of the things I don't think many people realize is that this is going to have a huge impact on small businesses. And as a small business owner, and one, by the way, was looking at space potentially to put a small, you know, offshoot of our business there, it's going to stop me dead, because being able to have people come in, and in my case, we own a fitness center, people aren't going to pay to park to come in and work out, right? But look at the restaurants, look at the shops on the boardwalk and all that.
And talk about, if you would, Dan, the employee.
Well, I was good. Thank you. So what Mary's alluding to with that is the way they're implementing this is the owners of the business will get a break. They'll be able to park. The employees will not. They're going to have to pay the hourly rate. So, for example, let's say an employee is making, I'll say $12 an hour, and they're going to work a 4-hour shift wherever. So 12 times 4 is $48. Well, you have to pay either $2 an hour or $10 for the day. So I'm just going to use the $10 for the day. Now their income has dropped from 48 to 38.
And that's before taxes.
And that's before taxes and any of that. Why would they come to work at that point?
Exactly.
And my fear is, you know, yes, this is Carolina Beach right now, but the fear is what one town does, you're going to start seeing it spread.
And now, since our new format here is you decide, where we try to give both sides of an issue.
There you go.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the other side of the issue. And again, the audience can decide, you know, if I'm always right or Dan might be right this time. We'll see how that goes.
Words, my friend.
Okay. But anyway, from the viewpoint of this towns, and I used to live in Curie Beach, and before I moved to Brunswick and got smart and came down here with all the great people in this area, there was a big issue that there was a lot of what they call day trippers who would come in with their cars. They'd park, free parking at the point in Curie Beach, and they would head to the beach with their coolers, and then they would leave the beach and they'd go home, and the town was providing them with services, including lifeguards and whatever else, and there was no economic benefit to the local community, be it the businesses or whatever else, because very few of them stopped by those local stores and bought something. So they were saying, you know, maybe we need to do something to at least raise some dollars and limit it, because there was also a bigger issue in this in Curie, that because they were the only free beach at that point on the thing, everybody came to Curie, and parking in the area was at best a zoo. You know, they were cruising around at you at 3 or 4 or 5 blocks from the beach, and even the owners, the people that lived there, had trouble finding places to park. So on their side of the argument, this was put in to try and balance out, raise some dollars to help the additional cost of all these people, bring in additional police to cover the area. You know, maybe the EMS people have to be called in, whatever else. So there are costs to a community to have a lot of people come and benefit to the community. So that's the one side of the argument, and Dan is giving you the other side of the argument. And you know, the emotional side versus the logical side is always a good thing to discuss.
Well, thank you for calling my side logical.
That wasn't quite what I hinted, but
and to Bill's point, he makes a valid point, I think, in the summer. I'm not going to quibble that one, but in the winter, it's the locals, and you look at a town like Carolina Beach or any of the Brunswick beaches, those businesses rely on the locals at that time. And I will tell you, having been involved in this fight for the roughly 10 days, I think it is 2 weeks since it passed, the locals are unanimously almost saying they're just not going to go now. Why would I go pay, an extra $10 to eat at fill in your restaurant when just up the road across the bridge I can go at a wonderful restaurant and not have to pay to park? So who's getting hurt there is the small businesses in the off season. Again,
and as Mary brought up through you, the employees that have to pay to
and the
go to work.
employees, right? I mean, it's absolutely absurd to me
And
to
again,
require
this
that.
is an issue that right now is in New Hanover, but the potential coming into Brunswick is there.
It's there.
And if we don't deal with it up front, and make people aware of it, you could turn around and suddenly have it hit the Brunswick area. So,
Well, as Mary said, we saw that with Wrightsville starting their parking way back. Carolina did it. Now it's spreading to all the other beaches. Topsail went to it. So it's both north, south, all the beaches and all the counties have pretty much, to my knowledge, gone to paid parking. And so this is, I believe, a test case that every town is going to be looking at.
I think perhaps what they've done is implemented it before they really thought
it through.
They needed to take everyone into consideration. The small business owner, the folks working for the small business, people that live locally and use that for a free entertainment, so I think maybe they need to regroup and think this through.
and the one part, I'm going to jump on your side right now since you did defend your sides completely. is you failed to mention the fact that they did away with the parking pass.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Because
So
I'll let you finish on that now.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I will disclose, I should say, that I did have an annual parking pass that I bought for Carolina Beach. And, we were at the beach, my wife and I, anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week. And we did spend money while we were there. All right. Curry's a little different, a little smaller, but, we're on the boardwalk. Everybody knows Brits. We would hit Brits. Everybody knows the various restaurants. When we had people come and stay with us, we would take them to the boardwalk. They'd spend money on the shops. Now, we're not going to do it. There's Curry's an option. There's Fort Fisher. There's coming over to the Brunswick County beaches. They may be a better option at this point. So this has tremendous effect.
And bring your dollars over here. We'd be glad to invite them into Brunswick and invest in our beaches
I will tell
and
you,
our community.
When the mask mandate was implemented in New Hanover, I spent a lot of money in Leland instead of going to New Hanover.
And I'm sure. But anyway, again, we bring this issue up because it's a regional issue that currently is in New Hanover, but it has the potential to spread in all directions. And we do have great beaches in our county here. And the access is what we're always concerned about, because the beach communities have to balance between their needs to fund what's going on, especially in the summer, and the increased numbers they see, versus overtaxing people and really taking advantage of the people that live there full time and visit. So that's an issue for the future. But if we make you aware of it, then hopefully, if it starts to rear its ugly head in Brunswick, you'll have the information from all of us here to get out there and fight it and keep it reasonable, because I think that's what needs to happen.
I mean, I don't live in Carolina Beach, but I have if you're in Brunswick, reach out to the town council of Carolina Beach. Let them know how you feel, because this is a test case and it will come over. Reach out to your local towns and let them know if they're even considering it. The beaches, everybody knows the beaches are, quotes, free, right? The state owns them. They're
right.
absolutely free. It's getting to the beaches where the issue is. And
we're asking those who make the decisions to think it through
and realize that the most impact is on those who can't afford it.
Exactly. And consider the locals, please.
And the small business owners.
Yes.
Right, which in both cases are usually local.
Right.
Yeah, so that's an important factor. The full-timers should not be punished to support everything else. So
Correct.
That's issue. So anyway, if you like what we're saying, please, stay tuned because we got even more to beat up on in this minute. We have another quick commercial break to make sure we cover our sponsors that are with us, and then we'll be right back. So as soon as we get ready to roll out, there's a little delay on what we're doing today, so maybe a few seconds before you hear them, but stay tuned because we have a lot more to discuss.
How far would you go if you had a group of strong, amazing people who support, motivate, and inspire one another to achieve their fitness goals and dreams? At Full Circle Fitness, we aren't just a place to work out. We're a community of amazing people who work together to reclaim our bodies and do things we thought we'd never be able to do again. Ready to set your fears aside and stop making excuses? Call today, Full Circle Fitness, 910-399-8350, or visit FullCircleFitnessNC.com.
This show is also sponsored by Dr. Tony Maglione. Dr. Tony is a cardiologist practicing in Wilmington. He accepts Medicare patients, and his office is located across the street from New Hanover Regional Medical Center at 2032 17th Street. The office number is 202-1071. Dr. Tony is an author whose last book is Rules for Conservative Patriots, and it can be purchased on Amazon. His website is www.drtonymag.com. Well, again, welcome back to All Things Brunswick 2.0, and you have our great panel here, which is Mary and Dan and I, and we're hopefully making your life so entertaining that you're going to keep coming back week after week to hear what we could possibly do next to ruin your whole day. So kind of hang on there. We're adding a new feature to the show in January, and Mary's going to explain a little bit about it.
We are going to recognize a person whom we will address as an unsung hero monthly on our show. It is a person who gives of themselves and does not receive the recognition they should.
Nor do they seek it.
Nor do they seek it, yes. So I would like very much to hear from all of you. My email is calmstillwell@gmail.com. If you know of somebody who fits this criteria, please send me an email. Let me know who they are and a little bit about them.
I would suggest you spell that because you don't have the double L. So before they get something wrong.
All right. Let me spell that for you. COMMSTILWELL@gmail.com. Thank you.
And we really would like to, on a monthly basis, pick a hero in Brunswick that goes out of their way, gives their job 130%, and doesn't look for recognition. Their sole purpose is to help other people. And we'd like to give them a little recognition because they've earned it. So if you know somebody, please get it to Mary, and Mary will pick out a lucky winner. And I've already disclosed that I will not run for this position for two reasons. One, I'm too modest, and secondly, I'd never win. So with those two things in point, I've taken myself out of it. So again, with our new format of, you decide. I'm going to let my friend Dan start out the second topic that we agreed on.
I'm totally blanking right now.
That's why I let you start.
Because you're blanking too, right?
You guys.
That's why we have
You know
Mary.
what? I have to come and save the day.
Yes,
Thank you, Mary.
I swear. All right. In the future, we are going to recognize the folks that readily step up to make a difference in your life. Those being the candidates of Brunswick County and the state of North Carolina. So please watch every week for us to talk about someone who has the courage to step up and try to make a difference.
Well, that wasn't what we were heading to, but that does help us an awful lot. However, why don't we take a 5-minute, that's what we have.
We got about 5 minutes left. Yeah.
And why don't we have a discussion about the mask mandates?
Oh, okay. We're just going to throw one out there.
Well, how about we start with that one, sir?
Okay. Which position would you like
I will
to
let
take?
you choose, sir, and we will
We
try
have,
to
we have
fit
the
other-
lovely lady here. She should have some input too.
No, I'm the.
She's staying.
She's the
I'm
neutral
staying
observer.
neutral. Yep.
She's
I'm the
she's
referee.
the so you're Congress, I'm the executive branch.
She's
the
She's the
judicial.
Supreme Court. She's
So
gonna
she'll
figure
make the decision that I'm right and you're wrong, and we'll move on from there.
Well, yeah, but that would probably not work. So anyway, what's your
So-
thoughts on masking?
Oh, so many thoughts. You got 5 minutes. All right. So, you and I actually in prior shows did talk about the mandates that were going in, and that was in the summertime. And, things have changed right now. Yes, there's a new variant out. Yes, there's the Delta variant that's out there. And we're starting to see that certain states are starting to, at the state level, implement the mask mandates again. And we're seeing the pushback, I think is the best way. I'm trying to make this family friendly. That's coming. And to me anyway, and maybe this is going a little bit off a tangent, I'm excited about that. And that may sound weird, but it's nice to see that maybe this could, in an odd way, start bringing the country together, because people who were can't even say the word, vocal, thank you, about being in support of them, you're starting to see that change. People are getting sick of it. And, when you look at it from the scientific view, there's science all over the board, right? And I always joke about it when somebody starts throwing out studies and all that, and I go, there were studies that showed cigarette smoking was good for you. There were studies that said fat was bad for you. Of course, they didn't tell you the sugar industry paid for those studies. A few years ago, eggs were going to kill you. Now eggs are healthy.
Coffee.
Yeah. If I can't credit who said this, and I wish I could, because I was one of the most.
Depending what you said, it might have been me.
It was not you. But basically is if you can't question science, it's not science, it's propaganda. Because the core of science is questioning.
That's true.
Right. So we're seeing with these mandates that, and big tech, the Facebooks of the world and so on and so forth. And yes, I know we're on Facebook. Sorry, Mark.
We were on Facebook.
We were on
about 30
Facebook.
seconds ago.
But you're seeing where they're not allowing the discussion. And that's, I think, to me anyway, that actually is the big issue.
Yeah, but I also think we need to say at this point that we look at it as an option rather than a mandate, because if someone feels they need to wear it,
absolutely wear it.
Their choice. It's their call,
Absolutely
and we
wear
will
it.
support that. I think, and I wish I could find it. I was just looking very quickly about the Abbott Costello routine I sent you.
Oh yes, yeah, that was excellent.
There was, those of you who remember Who's on First, the old Abbott and Costello line, there was a great one put out a couple weeks ago. You need to wear the mask to protect me. Does the mask work? It protects me. Then why do I need to wear a mask to protect you? And this goes back and forth, and it's a great one-liner.
Yeah.
But what I'm also seeing, and I agree with you, if you paid attention to what's going on, for example, in New York, again, a national issue rather than Brunswick, they just put the mandate back on for everything indoors. I've already heard.
And Vaxcard.
Right. And I know of at least 2 counties that have turned around and said, we're not doing it.
Right. And there's talk California, and they may have today, I don't know. California was going to it next.
They did pass it.
Did they? So, you're starting to see that, let's call it, certain states are starting to implement it again. Whether North Carolina will remains to be seen. It's probably going to be more at the county levels. But again, and we kind of alluded to this, when you have the mask mandate in one county, in our case, we had it in New Hanover, Brunswick did not. There were plenty of people like myself that took our business across the bridge. So to think that it does not have a financial implication, and I'm sure Brunswick was very welcoming.
You can bring your dollars
I
anytime.
knew
You
would
can
say
bring
that.
$, $5, $10. We'll take it.
But it's again, and to Bill's point, if you choose to wear a mask, I fully support that, and I will fight anyone that says you shouldn't wear one because they say so, not the person's telling.
And I also think when we talk about that, we have to realize that it is called COVID-19 because there were 18 strains before it, and there'll be years of
plenty
strains
more
after it. And it's and I don't want to minimize what happened to people, but The reality is this is not going to go away in a year or two or three.
It's never going away.
Right. It's going to be, as long as we have the flu coming back, this is going to be a different variation coming back. I think we need to adjust and deal with it with herd immunity.
Right.
And we're getting real close to saying our time is up already.
We're right there.
Yeah, we were right there, actually. So we're going to close our first meeting with, and we've had a great time.
I've had a blast.
Yeah, and the three of us, I think we work well together, and they're not firing me yet to let me come back in 2 weeks or so.
We have the rose between two thorns. So if you're watching on the video,
yeah, that's right. And we will be back on the 4th with a live show. In between, they'll be doing other things. But in the meantime, please come back and listen to All Things Brunswick 2.0. We've got a lot to do. We have a big election season coming up. We're going to be real busy, and we're going to entertain you. We're going to inform you. We're going to have a little fun.
We may even upset you from time to time.
That's true. Yeah, but I will keep him straight as much as I possibly can, because we all know.
We wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
And a Happy
New Year.
We wish you all the best. Thank you so much, and welcome. Thank you for listening and watching All Things Brunswick 2.0.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bringing you the best local talk radio show.
Folks, you know you're all looking for that special gift. Lines are long, traffic is frustrating, supply chains in the news. Just take a deep breath. If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come by Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak